And we are live as John disappears on the side. Welcome to the NavBar.
Welcome to the NavBar.
Yeah,
Just one sip of water.
listen to this.
Ah, look at that. Simon's got the spicy water again.
It's a must. How are you doing, John? We are live with 0 people watching, but it's not what it's about.
Yeah, I'm obsessing with trying to get this light working, even though we're just not going to worry about it. I keep saying we're not going to worry about it, and then I keep worrying about it.
This is a
Uh,
content creator's endless light. I'll just join you in the misery like this. Look, that's how
yeah,
we look.
we just need double dark. Well, the problem is we're going to do, like, this is going to be the first one where I was planning on, like, taking the video and,
The
uh,
HD fancy. But you look
yeah,
great. Dude, you've got the little triangle on the, like, you have the 3 point lightning McQueen.
I do
Look,
have the light behind me, yeah.
you
It
actually look
does,
even better than me. You have that like profile, whatever.
yeah, it looks kind of like, yeah, really moody and, uh,
Yes,
yeah, cinematic. Let's go with cinematic. All right,
cinematic,
I'm
dude.
going to cut all of that from the start, and we're going to start the podcast from here.
Yeah, John wants to be professional. He's gonna take a deep breath.
Hello, Simon. Welcome to another episode of the NavBar. How have you been this week?
I have been awesome. This week is probably the busiest of my year so far. It's only
Ooh,
Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday, but I've been basically working 2 jobs in one. It's by design and it's all my fault, but I'm doing a lot of things, and I have visiting family as well. The in-laws and the doggy are here, so it's a
oh,
full
that
picture. Very busy life.
yes, that always makes a huge difference having guests and trying to get anything done. At least you're like me, you've got like a separate space, separate from the
Yes,
house, where you can do some work and do some recording and do podcasts. It's fantastic.
it is not separate to the degree or where it should be when the kids are home and the dogs and the puppies are crazy. But now they're in school, and the dogs, when no one's here, they kind of chill for a bit. But yeah,
Nice.
what I we can talk about whatever you want, but what's happening in my life here is I have a full-time job at ThinkMill, as you can see. Shout out to ThinkMill, great people like
Shout
me
out.
and lots of others. And so that's my 9 to 5. And uh, in Australia, where we record this, the financial year ends in June, and people have budgets, and then they have to use their budget before the end of the financial year. And in consulting, quite often it translates to clients saying, "Oh, maybe we should hire a consultancy to use the budget and build that cool stuff before the end of the financial year." So there's a little crunch, and I've jumped into a project until the end of June to help with the team. But in parallel, I'm doing all my courses that I've actually never really talked about. I have joined Kenzie Dodds on the Epic Web platform. It's not
Mm.
exactly a secret. I think people have heard about it. I've spoken at the Epic Web conference. But essentially, when you create workshops, what happens is you have to validate them with real users. So you do live workshops on Zoom, or I use a thing called Gather, but it's like the idea is like you have 20 people and you deliver your workshop, and then they've bought tickets, so they're going to tell you their honest opinion if they like it or not, I guess. It's like real user testing, and then once you validate this, you can go and record the actual video-based course. That is the thing that hopefully sells quite well.
It's such a good idea to like you get so many iterations through of saying the same thing. Like it's like writing a really in-depth script and like practicing it a bunch. Like you tighten everything up, and by the time you come to actually recording, I imagine like it's seamless. Like I imagine it takes a lot less time to record the final product because you've practiced it so much and you've worked out all of those kinks and you've kind of like really optimized the pathway to get from A to B.
Totally, yeah. So I've delivered the workshop live twice. So the first one was a little bit rough. There was too much content for the time allocated. So I thought, oh, let's remove content. And then speaking with Kent, I was like, no, no, no. We can also make it a 2 day workshop, and if needs be, add an extra one more to make sure there's enough for a second full day. And so that's what I've done. I've turned it into a second workshop, a 2 day long workshop for the second iteration. And I have delivered this literally last week, Thursday, Friday. it went really, really, really well. The first time was like a bit stressful, and I was like, "Stop asking questions. We gotta go against the clock." So I started the workshop by telling them, "Please interrupt me. It's a live workshop. It's like you have the chance to stir the direction of the discussions." And by halfway, I was like, "Everyone, mute yourself. Don't talk to me. I've got a workshop to deliver," which is not great. So this second one, we had plenty more time, and we did go on all these side quests when someone had questions, even some TypeScript stuff unrelated. We did a little deep dive, and yeah, that was really cool. The feedback has been exceptionally good. We have like a 5-star rating system, and remember, it's paying customers. Like I'm not asking my friends and my mom to give me a gold star. I'm
Yep.
asking people who paid their money and their time to attend. And so if the results of the feedback is good enough, it kind of gives you an indication that the product should be ready to prepare. And so that was Thursday, Friday, and I was like, oh my god, I can finally record this thing. That's like all the work I've done with Kent ultimately is to end up with this product that people start buying. Yeah, I've created
Yeah.
tutorials and tips and all these videos for free, and I've done workshops, and all of this is just in preparation for the thing that is actually the product. And it's life coincidence, but now that I finally have this runway to just go and record like crazy, is also when I start this full-time consulting job, which is like when you onboard when you onboard a new project, it's always kind of demanding. Like you need to immerse yourself into the code base, and you not that you work extra hours, but you really need your full focus, and it makes it super hard to think of other things. So what I've done is except recording now, I have been very strict. My 9 to 5 is my day job, and I do the consulting thing. And then when the kids go to bed, I don't want to live my life always like this. But this week has been kids go to bed at 7, they start reading and put themselves to bed. And I come back here, and I did yesterday 3.5 hours of recording till 10:30 p.m. And then this morning at 6 a.m., I sent them to basketball, and I went in here for 2 hours, and I've recorded until the start of the workday essentially. So this is why I'm joking about the two jobs, two lives. I have this educator, content recorder, and then the consulting thing, and then the visiting family. So I've been busy, as you can tell.
Yeah, and then you've got the NavBar on top of that. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to still record an episode. Like it sounds like it's a very very busy time. And back on that, like that workshop structure is such a
Yep.
good way to, like you're saying, get feedback from paying people. Like people are going to tell you the truth because they've given you money and their expectations are set at a particular level, and so they're going to give you really honest feedback, and not just the feedback that you get to tighten up the material that you have, but delivering it in that live context and like being there with the people synchronously while they work through it. I'm sure you would identify all kinds of areas where you're like, oh, right, I really need to explain that in a different way, or I really
Yep.
need to like make sure I reiterate that thing from earlier because it's just getting lost. And so I imagine those side quests and questions that come up, and just you like observing these people going through the course would really help identify areas that you either need to tighten up or areas you need to dive a little deeper into.
Yeah, absolutely. An example of that is in the workshop. The main focus is responsive design and then animations. And there's one exercise that's almost like to me in the middle. Oh, quick aside, let's quickly do that because we need to do this. And it's like the interaction styles like hover and focus. And usually for other exercise, I have a very specific description. So there's a lot of materials that go with my presentation. So the learners are on the workshop app and they read the instructions. And there's lots of links to MDN documentation and Tailwind docs and all that stuff. And one of the chapters, I just assume, oh, quick, simple, we're going to do the hover styles on the link. So just do the hover and focus styles to match the Figma design. And then I sent them thinking, oh, it's gonna take 5 minutes. And at the end of this workshop, there were 3 different people that say, hey, the instructions were not really helpful for this one. And the instruction was like, small step, but pretty important for accessibility and usability. Go and copy the interaction styles. And I didn't realize that the focus styles with ring utilities and all that stuff is actually quite tricky and technical. And I just took it for granted. And 3 people said in the feedback, hey, you should at least hint that you can use outline or ring utilities, and the difference between borders and outlines with the how it takes space of the layout and makes everything shift by 1 pixel if you use border because of the box model versus the outline or box shadow that kind of floats around. And I was like, oh yeah, that's one area where I completely assumed this is basic knowledge from like Tailwind 101, and actually it's actually a bit more than that. So I've added some clear instructions, and it kind of just smoothens the whole experience, like you said.
Hmm, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to actually see the final product. All of your workshops have been at very inconvenient times. I feel sorry for you having to get up at all crazy hours of the night or early morning. But yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to step through it at my own pace and see that really like concise, like boiled down version of this course. I think it's going to be amazing.
I
Do you have
love
any
that
idea
you.
as to when the launch of that will be? Are we allowed to talk about that yet, or
Yes,
not?
well, the answer is no, I don't know. But the reason I'm pushing really, really hard is my workshop is on Tailwind version 3. There is in the background a parallel world where the Tailwind team is about to ship Tailwind version 4, which renders a whole lot of my workshop not obsolete, but kind of suddenly it's not the recommended way to do things. So
Right.
if I record now, I'm about halfway through the recording after my big push from last night and this morning. If I stop now and I'm like, oh, let's just like I'm gonna like I gotta slow down, otherwise burnout, whatever. I'm gonna slow down and then I'm gonna take a few more weeks, and then the team, the Epic Web team, has to go and upload the videos and generate transcript and write. They basically write a blog post for each video based on the content, which takes them
Nice.
a few weeks as well. So if I go in this like let's slow down pattern, then before the thing ships, Tailwind 4 will be out and it will be like, oh, Simon, you're 80% recorded. Maybe you should start again from zero with V4. So whatever, it's very possible, even at the speed I go, it's possible that Adam at the end of this recording has announced, like we never know, like the only thing I know is Adam said, hopefully it's ready for the summer. The summer in Northern Hemisphere is basically June is the start of summer. June is like next week. So, you know, we don't know what happens. But in saying that, because basically the big difference, let's switch to Tailwind context for a bit. We do a lot of theme customization in my workshop, and in V3 now you can, or even if you use V4, you can't use the JavaScript configuration because it's all moving to CSS. And so I was like, I don't want to teach something that doesn't exist yet because it might change. And I spoke with Adam, and he kind of think I had the right approach. Just keep teaching V3 and kind of introduce people to the fact that it's going to change. And so I thought, because V4 will eventually support a JavaScript config, and I thought to give my thing a little bit more shelf life, at the start of the workshop, which I've already recorded, I say, if you're on V4 and you're watching this, just know that what we do still works, and at the end of the workshop, on the last lesson, we'll move everything to the better way of doing it in Tailwind V4, so just stick around. And also I thought, even when V4 comes out, there will be a lot of people on V3 that don't necessarily have the time or the option to upgrade, even if the upgrade is really simple. Tailwind makes it really easy all the time. And I was like, there's a value even after V4 ships to show how to do it in a V3 compatible way. And I'm not punishing anyone because the last chapter really moves everything to how you would do it with V4. So basically you can do the whole workshop and ignore the fact you work in JavaScript, knowing that you're going to move that. And first I thought I need to re-record everything with the proper way of doing things, but I think it kind of makes sense to say, like, it's still all relevant. It's just we do everything V3 way and then we move it at the end. So I think even after V4 it will still be up to date, and it's not something that's completely wrong or out of shelf life, if you know what I mean. If
Yeah,
it's not
nice.
even on the shelf yet.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
do the people that went to the workshop, do they get discounted stuff for the course, or they've just helped turn it into the most epic web Tailwind course ever?
Yeah, man, they're my biggest supporters, the ones that believe in you at the start. They get a big fat 100% discount on the product. So anyone who attended the live workshop gets, they still have to buy it because you got to get the license, but they have a magic little coupon that's going to take every little penny of the price. And that's the least I could do. That without these people that support me, I can't validate my stuff. I can't also generate a bit of runway because the ticket sales, some of it goes to me to basically support the whole creating space and time to build that stuff. So yes, the answer is yes.
Awesome.
And I
That's
also
sick.
kind of owe them to because we don't provide recordings of the live workshops, and a lot of people say, "Hey, I'd love to get back to something with the sun." So I kind of owe them to these people to not spend 3 years to record the course that I said part of the attending to the workshop you get this for free, and then it never comes up. So a bit of accountability, which is never bad.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm very excited to purchase it, watch it, and actually learn how to use Tailwind properly instead of the hacky way that I force
But
a
you
square through
just
a
want to
circle
circle
hole.
back to one thing you said, which it makes a lot of sense. The recording process is actually super easy. It's just very time consuming because you need it's all on camera with the lights, and I'm trying to provide the experience of having me in a live workshop, but you can't talk to me because it's not live, but it must feel as much as you if you're in the workshop with me as possible. So I deliver it just like if I was delivering a real live workshop. And so it kind of takes the same amount of time to record than a real workshop delivery, which was 2 days. And then you add the editing on top. But the beauty of it is because I've gone through twice, I have every little problem, solution, and the diffing between. So I can literally open on the secondary monitor the solution, and then I can walk people through the. First, I introduce the problem and say, "Hey, this is what you got to do. Check out these links, and then good luck. I'll see you on the other side." And then I do another video where I teach. That's the longer part where I teach how I implement that, and I can literally make sure that I tick all the boxes to reach the solution like in the workshop. So all the work is pre-cut and organized. So I don't have to do any thinking, how do I want to teach this? It's all completely laid out. I just have to go through my to-do list of 71 video segments. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen updates from like recorded 3 to 5 to last night I've reached the thing where the to-do column becomes shorter than the done or the
Nice.
recorded, and it's like such a milestone. And today my last video took me to 40%, 39% of to do left. In Notion, you can do a count thing by I've put little labels like to do, recorded, edited. And the ones with the to do badge, which have nothing done, have 39% of the total left. So I've done 60% of the recordings and maybe 3% of editing, but I love this part and I'm pretty good at it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I like what you said before, like that sometimes there are those crunch times, and you really appreciate those like hours that you can fit in extra time. Not something you want to do all of the time, but
Nope.
yeah, when there's a big project that or something that is meaningful to you, where you're not feeling like you're forced, like you're being dragged back to work in the evening to keep doing it. If you're feeling excited about getting back into it in that evening time and being really productive, it can feel really, really good.
Yeah.
Yes, just make
But
sure you take that rest at the end after these videos are
yes,
finally
but
recorded and edited. And
yeah, you're very right. It's very uplifting, and this thing is 100%. Well, there's people getting their cut and commission, but this is a thing that I've chose to do, and it's hopefully going to open really big doors for me. So the closer I get to this goal, the more excited I get. And I was literally after a big day of work and 3 hours recording last night. This morning I opened my eyes. I was like, all right, get the kids out, and I can go sneak like 5, 6 videos before 9 a.m. when I start my job. And in a real world, you when you skipped going outside the day before, you should probably go for a walk or something. But I was just so eager to get into that recording, knowing that eventually it'll pass and I'll go jump in the water, go walking, play basketball, something. But this week is all about just trying to get closer to this goal of mine that's been sitting there for a long time, and now it feels very real.
yeah, yeah, it's very exciting. Like we've been talking about this, I think since we started the NavBar. Like when
Yes.
we started the NavBar, that was one of the kind of goals was to have another avenue that we can talk about projects that we're working on. And yeah, that was right when you had left Tailwind Labs and were starting to do your own thing. And I think you had just started it at ThinkMill as well. So it's amazing seeing that progression and seeing that we're getting closer to that moment that you've been sort of, those goalposts you've been heading towards. It's awesome.
Yep.
With
Thank you.
the trying to emulate the live experience in course format, is there, when people purchase the course, do they get access to a course platform or a Slack channel or something where they can ask questions and kind of, if they do get stuck, still have that support from you or someone else on the team?
Yes, very good question. So that's one thing that's super cool about Kent's platform, Epic Web. Uh, and it is Kent's platform, but it's growing into much more than just Kent. There's a few other instructors that are joining, and it is slowly morphing into something more like a like front end masters or plural site or some like
Yeah, it's
learning
becoming
platform.
like the dream team of content creators from every field. It's amazing. I'm so excited. Like
Yeah.
Chantastic joining, like it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
such a great lineup of people.
So the big difference, and then I'll answer your question, but the big difference if you compare to front end masters or something like this is these learning platforms, you can learn everything. You can learn React, Vue, Angular, like all the different stacks. And Epic Web is basically a more opinionated way of Kent has been like building many applications and learning and refining throughout the career. And it's like these tools are what helps me be really productive and successful. And so everything that is taught in the Epic stack is kind of part of this set of tools that Kent has assembled and thinks is a very good way to build applications. It doesn't mean it's the only way, but it's if you follow these decisions, you don't have to think, oh, should I use like this framework, this thing. It kind of makes the decision for you, removes a bit of this paralysis, and that's how I got in because Tailwind CSS was the choice for the styling, and so you would probably never see me teach emotion or like another CSS approach or BEM or something. I would love to teach raw, like vanilla CSS language. And that's something that Kent is pushing me to do as well. But if basically every instructor teaches something that is aligned with the overarching Epic stack thing that Kent assembled. But all this to say, hoping you're still there because you're kind of frozen or you're very passionate about what I'm saying. Most of the content, if not everything, is completely open source and free and available to anyone. Right now, it's all in the open. You can go to github.com/epicwebdev and find the pixel perfect Tailwind workshop. There's all the exercises, the problem, the solutions, the instructions that I wrote that took me forever. I'll keep talking while the Australian internet does its thing. But basically, I can hear you laugh, so you can hear me.
I'm still here.
Yeah, everything. And it almost scared me at the start. I was like, literally the only thing that people buy is access to the videos that I'm recording now. And as you mentioned, a very crucial point is part of the Discord community to access to a special, not Discord server, but a special channel within there for people who bought the course. And as Kent underlines, very importantly, they buy the satisfaction and feeling of good karma that they supported the people they learn from. So they buy this like feeling of, hey, I've got value here and I've given value back. But essentially, if you everything that I do, the workshop that I taught, people say, oh, like can I get back to this? Like anyone. My mom could go and download, well, she would have to npm install and like make sure she has Node 20 and stuff like this. But my repo and Ken's repo and Chan and anyone that is an Epic Web instructor, everything is available for free, publicly open source. You can clone the workshop app. You can like it's all out there. And Kent was like really proud and said it's such gratifying thing that you can give almost everything away for free. And then where you really deliver the value and clearly it takes time to record videos and do the final polish stuff, this is what people can buy to support you and make it sustainable. And I really, really love that approach of like, I want to teach everything I can and make it as public as I can and then still find a way to make it sustainable.
Yeah,
So
and giving you all that value up front, like not only being able to take the course, but even just looking through like what are the modules actually going to teach me, like being able to essentially get a preview that's not just a marketing page telling you, you know, all the buzzwords, all the SEO terms that it wants you to land on the page for. But like you can literally go in and see like what are you going to be building, what sort of topics are you going to be covering, what are going to be the you know, the exercises and
Yep.
the different challenges, and then like you're saying, like you can then choose to pay to support that and get that extra value of beautifully recorded videos that are produced by you and the team. Yeah, it's just such a
Exactly.
good attitude, giving all of that stuff away for free and really like demonstrating the value. And people who, you know, want to scam the system or whatever can still go and take the course. But yeah,
Yep.
hopefully more people want to support you and get that extra value of those videos.
Exactly. And there's always going to be people who want to learn, but they are at a stage of the career where they don't have an employer with a training budget, and they're like, I can't necessarily shell out. I have no idea, by the way, what the price will be for this workshop. But I know some people will be like, oh, that's too much. I'm like a freelancer. I don't have any money. Uh, and I'm very aware that a large portion of people will be like, oh, I can grab the final version of the workshop and I can paste that in my site, and I have the design pixel perfect without having to pay Simon, and that's completely fine. Go ahead and do it if you want. Uh, but the hope is that people that go through that say to their boss, "Hey, this course was really good. Maybe we should get like a team license or something." And the karma comes back to you. Like the more you
That's
give,
what
the
I was
more
going to
things
say.
comes
Like,
back.
yeah, those people like who might be able to get those learning resources for free that they can't afford right now, may get them to the point where they're more employable and they get a job, and then they want to kind of like, you know, pay their dues. They want to say thank you, so either getting a team license for it to train up the rest of the team, or even just down the line, you know, wanting to support auth and, you know, everything, anything that you could want to do in a building an app. And so I wonder if some of these, whether the React compiler and some of these like other things, like how that will work with Laravel. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting whether
Yeah.
it will
So I
change the
something that
patterns for just using it for
yeah
just like rendering UI versus now moving some of that data fetching stuff across to the React components and things like that.
yeah something I've heard many times in this week, and I don't really understand why, but because I haven't looked into server components that much, but a lot of people seem to say now that server components are here, it makes the ability to build something like Django or Laravel or Rails much more feasible. Um, One thing about Laravel is you're right, you can have Laravel as a backend and then API endpoints, and then the front end you just consume an API like you would hit Supabase or you would hit any like GraphQL API or whatever. But they have that little glue library thing in the middle that is not exclusive to Laravel and not exclusive to React. It's called Inertia. And basically, what it does is it intercepts all the network requests and then turns it into something like React think is an SPA or something like this. So you can have authentication and email and all the stuff on the back end, but then as a monolith, you can have routes that are turns out to be React components instead of just blades, templates, or HTML pages. And in there, you can access the user to see if they're authenticated. You can fire like you have that monolith. It feels like you're building just a simple backend full stack app with like templates that talk to the server, but then you have access because it's React. You can do all the crazy stuff. Use Radix UI, just do JavaScript stuff on the front end, but you magically have props coming from the server, which is it's insane. Like you have the best of both worlds, and you build this monolith application that can be Next.js. Actually, it's not Next.js. You can use React or Vue or I think Svelte, and then Inertia kind of brings this thing. And in Aaron's video, that's where the most like the back to front is completely seamless with that Inertia thing, and that's approaching it from the JavaScript front end. And then Laravel has also something called Livewire, which is very similar to Phoenix has called LiveView, and I think Hotwire was in Rails, which were probably the first ones to do it. And it's the other way. It's like using backends to magically do JavaScript front end updates without writing JavaScript, basically.
Right.
And between all these approaches, if you're a backend dev or front end dev or middle stack dev, you can find something that works really well. And I just think it's worth exploring. It's really cool space.
Absolutely. yeah, I really, I've said many times, and as have you, but I think you've actually made the time to play around with Laravel and actually, like, build something. Because even if you're not planning to, transition into being a Laravel dev full time or whatever, like, just learning any language or any other framework always gives you more of an appreciation for, or a better understanding of the framework that you might be more familiar with as well. And so going and using something like Laravel, you come back and you're like, all right, I get how this works, or I get these limitations, or yeah, it gives you just kind of like a better understanding and appreciation for all of it. I really like what you said there about being able to like detect who the user is throughout the full stack. Like that's one of the huge benefits of Superbase. Like one of the reasons that I really liked it initially and why I ended up getting a job there and talking about it for the last 3 years or so is that idea of being able to just like detect who the user is anywhere, and that's because all of this stuff is in the Superbase like ecosystem. And so if you have auth, and you also have data fetching, and you also have like your authorization layer all in Superbase, then you can see who that user is in any of those pieces. So you know who the user is on the client side, you know who they are on the server, and you know who they are in the database. So when you're doing like an actual call to the database trying to fetch data that a particular user can see, you can like change your queries. Like you can write authorization rules that only allow that specific user to see specific data from the database. And that idea of being able to like all of those pieces tying together is just so much more convenient. When you go to actually build an application, you need all of those pieces to be
Mm-hmm.
working together as a cohesive application. You don't want to have to write some like you know authorization layer between every single piece of this massive like micro, what was it called, microsystem architecture or whatever, where you've got all of these different pieces, and then you need to worry about like what are all of these pieces allowed to see, and how do I get the user safely between all of these pieces. Like having everything in this one space is just so much more convenient, makes so
Yeah.
much more sense when building a real application.
Yeah, man. Um, I want to say two more things on the topic. First of all, like I'm a JavaScript front-end HTML CSS dev, and I would typically be the sort of people that use Laravel with inertia and React because I already know React, and that's what I did first. I was like, oh yeah, my comfort zone. I know how to build stuff, and then I have access to all this backend stuff, and it's amazing. And then I thought, I everyone is like raving about this tall stack, which is Tailwind, Alpine.js, Laravel, and Livewire. And so, and I was like, oh, I got to look into this. And then I realized instantly it's like Livewire is for PHP devs, so they can write front end code without having to write JavaScript. They can do it in PHP. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I'm not a backend dev. I'm not a PHP dev. So it's really not the thing for me. And I kind of like brushed it off. And then I spoke to a bunch of different JS devs. Chris Chris Sev from Scotch.io, and then now he's doing Video Tap. Really cool guy. And he said, dude, I'm a JS dev. You have to try Livewire. You will really like flip out how cool it is. And then Josh Siri, who just recently joined the Laravel team, he's kind of like found a nice niche corner as the JS Laravel guy that transitioned from JavaScript to Laravel. And he also said, like, dude, Livewire is, is really cool. It's not that hard to learn, especially if you know how Alpine JS works. You basically sprinkle some attributes on elements. It feels a bit like Vue, feels a bit like Alpine. Anyway, I thought Livewire was not for me. And this is where I had by far the most fun because of what you just said. You build almost everything as a simple, dumb server rendered pages. So you have your server templating language, you can do loops. Anywhere you want to know if someone's logged in, you can go @auth, and it's like a block, and inside of there will only show if the user is logged in. And you can go @guest, and it's the opposite. Like if someone's logged in, they won't see that. And you have all these incredibly elegant helpers that Laravel provides with the Blades templating language. And basically, you can do almost everything in a UI except client side, like optimistic UI and all this fancy stuff. And this is where Laravel steps in, Livewire, sorry, steps in because it lets you synchronize data from the backend to the front end. And Livewire inside of it has Alpine.js built in. The Caleb Porzio is the same person who built both. And so you
Mm.
can you can increment a button by clicking, and it's going to either do it on the client side and wait and then do the synchronization, or it's going to send the request and wait and then update. You can always decide, should this fire a network request or should it be just client side, and both talk to each other really well. And it's amazing. Like you can end up doing this really rich interactive user interfaces, but with the simplicity of just, you feel like you're just building HTML pages with lots of nice helpers. And a mature framework like Laravel, and same with Craft CMS, the templating language has access to every convenience you can think of that people have said, oh, we should add this for like a decade. And it's just so robust and simple. And then you sprinkle a bit of Livewire for the interaction, which is always a bit less than you imagine, unless you do a super rich portal interactive live stuff. And yeah, it's such a nice way to build applications. Really enjoyed it.
And this is basically what the entire Laravel community has been saying for a while, and especially the last week with all of this,
Yeah.
you know, React versus, well, not React versus Laravel, but just, yeah, all the discussion that's going on at the moment is, yeah, like Laravel already has all of this stuff
Yeah.
while the JavaScript ecosystem is still trying to kind of like piece all the bits together. And you know, something like the Epic web stack is a great example of something that could, you know, could be that in the future, taking all of the pieces that do these things really really well and putting them together into
In
one
a
place, so
cohesive
that
way.
yeah, you don't need to make all of these decisions up front. You just get given really good defaults. You get given a really good default auth system. You get given really good default database and data fetching logic, or data fetching like ORM or whatever. And yeah, and then you can just focus on building an application. And if you want to like customize any of that stuff, you just customize one piece.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. But you're very right that the PHP world had it going really good for a long time, and they pretty quietly until now. Now it's getting a bit more vocal, but they've been like quietly winning and shipping, and that's one thing I said. I almost wish that this debate doesn't bleed into the Laravel world, because they're just so pragmatic. And one example for me is Tailwind CSS. Like, love it or hate it, Tailwind is pretty empowering, and in Laravel, literally every package, every starter kit has Tailwind built in, and nobody, like, some people might not like it and they might strip it out, but no one is arguing this. They just go on with it, and it's like, yep, this is the chosen way. It's productive. And I remember I was at the Tailwind Labs team when Next.js started bringing this like server thing and actions. And in the Tailwind Labs team, there is Jonathan Reinick, who created Inertia. And I was trying to explain, Remix and how it lets you access stuff from the server with the loader and an action. And I was like, oh, it feels like kind of like Next.js is ripping or like taking the ID and running with it. And he said, have you checked Inertia? And I was like, no. And he said, it's basically exactly the same, and it's existed for like 3 years already. And basically, it does the magic glue between your server and front end, and it can talk to each other. And I realized, wow, like this, like Remix, the way they've done it is different, obviously. But it was completely like groundbreaking. And then I realized people have been doing this in a different yet similarly empowering way, like for years. And just didn't make a big, just, yeah, you're more productive now, use this, and everyone adopts it. And the last thing I want to say, and that's why I think it's healthy, part of this big debate, Laravel React, started when someone made a joke about WebDev Cody, his name is. He's intentionally, I think, likes to stir some drama because it makes things change. I don't really agree with that. But anyway, he said, oh, yeah, Laravel makes it easy to do a to-do app. And he showed like all the folders for the database and the seeder and the factories and the stuff that have a little bit to do, but it's like opening the Node modules folder in the Next.js app, or the .next thing that generates all the chunks. And and anyway, and then Taylor Otwell, the creator of Laravel, politely but kind of firmly just corrected the whole discussion. And then Brian Florence jumped in, and I was like, oh, this could go anyway. And the way it went is they're probably right now, actually, because it's Tuesday in the US, recording a podcast together to discuss like how different frameworks approach full stack, front end, back end. And so Remix, Ryan Florence, and Taylor Otwell are on the podcast, and I think it's gonna be an incredible discussion that I'm really looking forward to listen to.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, for the first time probably ever, it's not just people yelling at each other from different sides of a fence. People like this, it sounds like this is actually starting like real conversations and
Yep.
discussions and like, creating great content where people can go and get educated. Like,
Yep.
you mentioned Aaron Francis's really good breakdown video of React versus Laravel, or,
And
comparing
it's all
React.
following that kind of initial web dev Cody and Taylor, and then Ryan Florence,
Yeah.
and like it all kind of sparked this, but it's healthier than usually. And credit to Taylor, because he could have just dunked on the thing and showed his Lamborghini, which he ended up doing in a different thread. But he said very clearly that Laravel started on the back and is very aware that React and Next and Remix do amazing stuff in the front end and provides starter kits to embrace that. But he said, hey, you have to realize Laravel is a backend framework that moved to the front end full stack, and Next.js is the opposite. It's like a front end thing that tries to dig into there. And he said, I think we all trying to bridge that full thing, and it's nice to see everyone trying in a different way. Like he brought it in a very pragmatic way where you could have just like showed the receipt, because Laravel people have receipts, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good that we're getting some good discussion rather than
Yeah.
just big flexes. All right. We probably need to wrap this up because you've got 5 million jobs and you need to get to other things. But before we go, Simon, do you have a sick pick for me this week, or are you gonna see? You either go one side or the other. Either you don't have a sick pick, or you just have 12 sick picks and you drop them all at once. So we need to slowly drip feed them out rather than just dumping them all at once.
Yes.
Do you have one sick pick for me this week?
I have even better. I have the reverse sick pick. I have a sick
Ooh.
unpick. Sick do not pick.
Wow. Okay. A sick correction. I like it.
Sick do not pick, and we don't have a choice living here, but it is called the NBN, National Broadband Network, which is the Australian internet.
Do not
So-
pick the Australian internet.
Right now is happening to me the thing that makes most people over the world that are web dev ecstatic. I am getting a free upgrade to NBN fiber to the premise. So this optic fiber is gonna go into my wall socket in the house wall, which means I can have the state of the art internet, except in Australia, the state of the art internet that I'm being offered without shelling thousands of dollars per month on the enterprise level where it says schedule a demo for the pricing is 400 down, which is all right, and 80 up. So 80 megabits per second up would make the rest of the world, I know because I'm from Switzerland, it is not blazing fast by any means. And this costs $149 a month, and it is marketed for enterprises up to 16 staff doing UHD streaming in parallel. I was like, no, it's not. Like I couldn't do that stream with another 15 people doing their own streams in parallel. And so basically I'm upgrading just because it's a free upgrade, and with the end of financial year, they have the first 6 months discount on the new plan. So I pay the same amount, which is $100 per month, but I have access to bigger and faster, and the latency is going to be a bit smaller, but it's still so bad and so expensive compared to most of the world. Thailand, like there's so many places that you imagine the infrastructure would be harder to get to that is so much better than here. And it is an anti-do not pick, because yesterday from 8 a.m. to 12 was the window for the NBN person to come. They were like, be at home, make sure you're here, you're ready to, you have moved the furniture in front of the wall socket. I've done all this. I have 3 dogs, so every time they bark, I'm like, yeah, the guy's here, let's go. And I walk, and it's just a leaf that had fallen from a tree. False alarms after false alarm. And now they have rescheduled this afternoon from 4 to 8 p.m. I have genuinely zero trust or faith that it will happen. So, okay, 8 to 12. And at 1 p.m. yesterday, so an hour after the window, I get a text message saying, your appointment is rescheduled due to the lack of technicians. It's like, how do you book an appointment and realize 1 hour later, oh, actually, we don't have anyone, sorry.
Yeah.
So, and I was supposed to do a live remote meetup talk for Seed.js tonight at 6 or 7 p.m. The meetup ended up being cancelled for other various reasons, but I contacted the organizer and I was like, dude, I'm freaking like, there's gonna be someone doing drilling holes and changing the NBN, it might cut off, and there's dogs, they're gonna go crazy at 7 p.m. There's kids, there's my family in-laws. I was like, this is not great. At least now I don't have to worry about this talk, but I almost guarantee that tonight I will tweet saying the NBN cancelled on me again. I don't have any faith. So it's expensive, it's hard to organize. And the most frustrating bit is my house is capable of doing the ridiculous 1,000 down, 1,000 up, but it's priced at like 6.99 or 9. It's like enterprise tier. You need to run a business that makes serious money off the internet, which maybe I do actually. But like,
Once we get people to sponsor the NavBar, it'll be a no-brainer.
look, I gotta read something. I shared this in the Kenzie Dodd like Epic Web Slack, and I said, "Oh, I'm upgrading, but I should be more excited than I am." And I showed the pricing tiers and the speed and stuff. And Taylor Bell, who works at at Egghead, said to me, "I have 1,000 down, 1,000 up for $65, but I don't
Oh,
live as close to the
man.
beach." So yeah,
Oh,
further away from the beach, but the 1 gig down, 1 gig up for 60, and it's most of the world is in that range. And here, if you want that, it's almost $1,000. And also, it comes with this typical evening speeds. Like it's still gonna choke when people use internet or stream Netflix, which people do with broadband NBN. It's a mess, man. The
yeah.
internet is a mess.
It is a mess. And you'll be glad to hear that at least you've got one up on me because I paid for this upgrade a couple of years ago
Yeah.
before it was offered for free because my internet was so unusable. And when I moved to like doing content
Oh
creation
yeah,
full
you need.
from home, like I needed an internet connection that was stable. So I think it cost us like 3.5 grand to for them to dig up our driveway and like run all the cable underground. But yes, I am very much regretting that decision. Like, yeah, I hit the same problem. Like, we paid heaps of money to upgrade it, and then I looked at the plans, and I'm like, well, like I'm still gonna be on a better plan than I was on. Like, it's still
Yeah.
gonna make my like it's gonna be the difference between being able to do my job and not being able to do my job. But if I wanted to actually benefit from the technology that we've just installed and paid to install, then yeah, it's going to be like $1,000 a month or
It's
so, like just
ridiculous.
ludicrously expensive to be able to actually get decent speeds that are just like the base level for the rest of the world.
There's even a clause like you can look at every single provider, Aussie Broadband, and there's so many. They have like a family, normal, personal tier, and then business tier. And if you want a business tier, you need an ABN, which is an Australian business number. You need to be a registered business. I am a sole trader and I'm registered as an ABN, so I actually can tap into this.
Yeah,
But
same.
most personal stuff is capped to a ridiculous. The fastest that you throw all your money as a personal consumer at is 40 megabits up. 140, that's the clamp in the countrywide. And if you don't have a business and you're like, but I like gaming or I like watching movies, like, well, too bad. You like live streaming at 40 is like you're using all of it and you're hoping for the best. And then because I'm in business, I can go all the way to the bigger tiers just because I registered my ABN. But you can see so many. Uh, I never understood that thing that gamers were joking about how hard it is to play games from Australia. But because of the geographical location, the latency is way bigger, and then the upstream upload thing is so low that you kind of every game you play is kind of lagging and you're delayed and stuff. And in a way, live streaming or Zoom calls is the same. I'm talking to John here, so we have a pretty decent latency. But every time when I did my workshop with people from around the world, there's like this very noticeable 1 or 2 seconds delay that we all keep talking over each other. So we have a crappy time zone, a crappy internet, a crappy hot weather. Like I just realized I'm playing the DevRel stuff in hard mode,
We
very
have
very hard mode.
snowfields, snowfields that barely have snow and it's just ice. But we have very nice beaches and
Nice
we have
beaches.
very clean air.
But
Uh,
you know what? I've seen Aaron Francis do this incredible reaction video. Like the way he did it was so tactful. But there's that beef drama which is not. It's just a conversation starting between React Laravel and the To Do apps. And I discovered this tweet in the morning alongside Aaron's video that he took the screenshot of the tweet for the thumbnail, and he had this really well polished video. And I was like, I am aware of the timing of a video. Like it's like a joke. I said to him, like if the timing's right, it hits, and if you do the same joke, like 3 or 4 seconds later, it just completely flops. And I realized if I want to be like capitalizing on this, or there's something happening in the industry, if I do really quick video now, it's gonna go crazy because everyone's gonna include it in the conversation. But then every time I see something happening, I look at the tweet and it says like 17 hours ago because it was before just went to bed, and I don't sleep 17 hours. But like it's so much harder to be the travel to go to a conference. Everything is so hard from Australia that every now and then I'm like I might become successful with the Epic Web courses, but it's so hard to be a dev role that goes to conferences and that rides on the moment of the industry and the little trends. And I think it's called trend jacking. Like you find something trending and you're like, oh, let's write this. It's almost impossible, and then you add crappy, expensive internet to the to the mix, and you're like, come on, what are we doing?
yeah, we just need a proper like tech hub here in Australia. The problem is that like Australia has a good tech scene and like a good, a big, a lot of developers and a lot of companies, but all of them are trying to market to America, or like there are a couple that are, like the
Yes,
real estate company of Australia and the car listing company of Australia, but all of the other companies that just build general products all try to, like market towards the US because that's where the majority of people spend
yeah.
money on tech. Uh,
This is why, by the way, we've chosen to record at 9 morning instead of saying, oh, let's record at midnight so the San Francisco can watch our live stream, the NavBars. No, we need to develop a community. There is a community, but we need to do stuff for them and make other people want to come here instead of making it hard. We
and
at
Simon
Think
just gave
Mill,
you 10 reasons to never come here, so we're not doing a very good job.
yeah, my do not seek pick was
It kind of turned into do not pick
yeah.
Australia rather than
Yeah.
the do not pick that it started as.
But I work for an Australian company, Think Mill, and part of the pleasure is to have colleagues in my time. And but